Let me start off by saying, boy, do I ever miss you all. This is not how we like doing things. This is not our way of doing things. We're a social organization. We're an activist-based organization. We're an organization that we rely on each other. We talk to each other. We hug each other. We do all of that stuff. And here I am at the back of a computer. But the bottom line is, when you're dealt lemons, you make lemonade. And that's what we're doing. So we're not going to allow a pandemic to interfere with the important work we have to do. We're not going to let a pandemic stop us from showing each other the incredible love and solidarity that we have. So I want to start off by once again thanking Tammy, who does an incredible job with the Air Canada Bargaining Committee. I was with Tammy, if you can imagine. We got a deal in January, I think it was, of 2020. And that is when the pandemic was starting in Europe. I remember the discussions with the cruise ships. And I remember us having a leadership meeting after we got a tentative agreement with Air Canada, which is the best deal we ever had. And some of the leadership were reflecting the thoughts of the members that were saying, the pandemic is a hoax. You're trying to feed us a lot of nonsense about, blah. And here we are, June of 2021, the worst pandemic, the lives that have been negatively impacted, the deaths. So I want to thank Tammy, and I want to thank Matt as well for the incredible job that he does at the National Executive Board, raising all of your issues. Talks about he's an aerospace, he comes out of the aerospace industry, my industry. So it's nice having a friend on the boards where we can talk aerospace. But the bottom line is, it's about us, and it's about the job you do each and every day for our members that are struggling and suffering. I really want to, my marks today are for Larry Kendall from the FFAW, 61 years old, drowned, lobster fishing. 61, I'm 62. So I'm thinking, what am I doing at 62? I'm chasing grandchildren. I'm plotting the next phase of my life. I'm thinking about what we have to do later on today for our members, what I have to do tomorrow for our members, governments that I need to talk to, who I need to push, governments we need to influence. I'm thinking about all of that stuff. And then I think about Larry that died way too early. And then I'm thinking about Luc Boulanger, I guess you would pronounce his name, from New Brunswick, 38 years old, COVID. Died while on a respirator. Wife, young kids, family destroyed. And then I think about the 215 bodies that they found in a former residential school outside of Kamloops. And I think about our discussion and our commitment to our Indigenous members and to Indigenous communities. I think about our leadership in the continuing pushing for the murdered and missing Aboriginal Indigenous women and girls. I think about the Highway of Tears, how I was going to walk it in 2020, and then the damn pandemic hit. I think about the boat that we bought for the activists in Winnipeg that are dragging the red. So I think about all the issues that we're dealing with, whether or not it's the fact that in communities we still have to boil water in 2021. And people wonder why there's such economic disparity across this country. We wonder why there's so much hate and frustration as it relates to how people have been treated. Hate's probably the wrong word, but sheer frustration and disappointment and betrayal. So we have so much work to do. And so my comments today have all of those children and our members in mind. We lost 10 members with COVID. 10. personal support workers, healthcare workers, workers that work in processing plants, warehouses. You know, and then I think about the whole debate that we've had, and I'm going to start to, I don't want to turn this into a, look, I miss you all, and I'm an emotional person. And I think when I speak with you and talk with you, it brings out the, you know, all of those pent up feelings that we've been emotionally racing with for so long, because we just don't get to touch each other and depend on each other like we normally would. So when we get together, even in this type of a form, I miss you all. And so I get emotional when I think about the challenges in front of us. So if we take a look at where we're at with COVID, you know, I'll never forget the first wave when we started talking about what governments need to do. And we were all over this. Our government, we were all over the federal government, provincial governments. Here's what we need to do. We know that people, as a result of COVID, because we watched the cruise ship starting to come in, we watched our members in hotels start to get laid off. We saw the restaurants closing. We saw our members in retail. We saw our members in the airline industry, our members in so many different industries were starting to lose their jobs, starting to get laid off. At one time, we had over 100,000 members on layoff. 100,000. So we were talking to the government saying, hey, listen, you better come up with programs, put money in people's pockets. Because a lot of the workers that are going to get laid off immediately are part-time, non-standard, precarious, won't even be eligible for unemployment insurance. You better do something, you better do it quick. So while other people were scratching their head, Lana Payne and others, we were all saying to the feds, you better create a program, get money in people's pockets like yesterday. And so they came up with CERB. And then we continue to push the governments, and it's not very often that I'm with Beatty and Ryan, or excuse me, Beatty and Kelly, who are, you know, manufacturing associations, chambers of commerce, small business. But then when the government came up with a 10% wage subsidy, the three of us led the debate and said, are you kidding? 10%? That'll do absolutely 2/5 of zero. And so the government then moved it to the 75%. So we were all over this thing right from the beginning. But where are we now? We started off with wave one and everybody was pretty responsible. Places got shut down and people were careful. But then we also got a little overconfident, I will argue. Conservative governments forgot that the responsibility was to workers. And then, of course, they went right back, of course, to the responsibilities to the corporate communities. And they started to reopen, and they started to reopen, and they started to reopen. And then all of a sudden we had variants, and then we had a second wave, and then we had a third wave. And take a look at the provinces that are the worst. It's the provinces led by conservative governments. Look at Manitoba today. 3 times the Canadian average. Take a look at Alberta. Take a look at Saskatchewan. Take a look at Ontario, where the premiers were preoccupied with reopening workplaces because they wanted to appease the corporate community. We ended up allowing the variants to take over. So here's how much this has changed in a short period of time. In April of last year, about 25% of all people under the age of 40 tested positive. Today, it's over 60% of all people testing positive are under the age of 40. Remember the debate over a year ago? Oh, it's only old people that catch it. Remember? Look at it today. But that's what happens when you take your foot off the gas pedal. That's what happens when you don't pay attention. That's what happens when you don't care. I'll argue. We've had 25,000 deaths COVID related in Canada. 1.38 million people tested positive. And I want to take us back to the debate on essential workers in this country. Who are the essential workers? Who did we depend on the most when push came to shove. Grocery store workers. And I think about our Dominion strike, 12 weeks. In Newfoundland, with our incredible leadership that was shown. Wages, minimum wage, part-time, 80% of the jobs part-time. Given a $2 an hour pandemic pay only to have it taken away because Loblaws, which controls Dominion or owns Dominion, said it looks like we're getting out of it. That was a year ago. It was June of last year that they took away the $2 an hour pandemic pay. It looks like we're getting out of it. Yeah, bye. Jerry, behave. So it was about greed, but our members fought like hell. And we were fighting to get back to 60, I believe it was, full-time jobs that they eliminated. I think we got back about 20 of them. But we got some wage increases. But what that fight did in Newfoundland is it showed other employers like Sobeys, some of the other grocery store employers that, hey, hold on here. They're willing to dance and they're willing to take us on. So a company like Loblaws, which is about a $5 billion a year, more than that, industry, they sat back and they took a look and said, they shamed us pretty bad. And then I was disgusted a few weeks ago when Sarah Davis, as she was stepping down and retiring, took a bonus much larger than her salary, saying what a great job they did navigating during the pandemic. And then I look at the CEO of Chartwell long-term care facilities where there were so many deaths, took a bonus much larger than his wage, saying that they did such a great job navigating through the pandemic. And you know what else they did? At Chartwell, not only did they negotiate for them to take a huge bonus, but they shot down a proposal by some of the shareholders to give their employees a living wage. And they says, this isn't a time to talk about a living wage during a pandemic. Unbelievable. So we're in the third wave. The UK variant seems to be the worst, seems to be the most transmissional, the one that's the most dangerous. And so we need to be careful. We need to be vigilant. We need to be cautious. So we're dealing with the ideological demands of some of the conservative governments. We're dealing with some of the ideological principles. But we can't let them steer the debate. We need to continue. We need to continue to push. And we need to continue to stand up for our members. Now, things are looking hopeful. We're averaging now about 2,700 cases, positive tests across the country. About a month ago was, well, not even a month ago, a few weeks ago was over 8,000 a day across the country. So the numbers are getting better, but it doesn't mean that, hey, we're out of the woods. So take a look at the way the Atlantic provinces handle this. You're so much smarter than everybody else. You created the Atlantic bubble. It was a preoccupation with being safe. It was a preoccupation with being smart. And the numbers have been so much lower. So congratulations to each and every one of you. We've had 2 elections in the Atlantic provinces. One in Newfoundland, where we had Fury re-elected, which, well, let's just say that he probably wasn't any of our first choices with him to be re-elected. But it is what it is. But do you believe what he's talking about already? Austerity. So then, of course, we end up with another dose of Blaine Higgs. But ultimately, take a look at who was on the streets, who was walking, who was banging on doors. Aside from a lot of the talk of the rest of the labor movement, not a lot of them were walking down the streets with us. But there we were again in Newfoundland and New Brunswick, making sure that we were talking about workers' issues. We were talking about the forestry sector. We're talking about fish. We're talking about labor standards. We're talking about employment standards. We're talking about the issues that were so important to us. So we need to keep at it. We need to keep at our political work. We need to continue to push for vaccinations. We need to talk to our members that don't want to have the vaccination. I think right now we're sitting at about 62, 65% of Canadians have received their first shot. The only way we're going to get out of this is when Canadians are vaccinated. Period. So we need to encourage our members to get out there, get the vaccination, because we know that even after the first dose, the chances of contracted COVID drop significantly. But a lot of things have really came to the forefront during COVID. It really has shown the difference between equality and the lack of equality globally. It really has been an education on the haves and the have-nots in the global economy. Because here we are with our 62 to 65% of people have already received their first shot. I think about 6% of Canadians have received their second shots. Do you know what percentage in Africa of the citizens have been vaccinated? Less than 2%. So you've got China, if you can imagine. The United States are really leading the argument globally about waiving the patents on the vaccines. And you've got Canada is there as well, but they're not moving as quick as I'd like them to be perfectly candid with you. But like, this is all hands on deck. And we're not going to find global relief until everybody has been vaccinated. So it ought not to be a debate between rich countries and poor countries. This has to be about making sure that it's a global response. So not only are we right in the middle of the debate about the pandemic, about vaccinations, we're pushing governments like crazy on Build Back Better. What does it mean? What are our industries that need help? So there's no question when the federal government made the announcement on money for Air Canada, our hands were all over it, about $6 billion worth. And let me tell you, my conversation with Air Canada yesterday, when I told them how completely disgusted I was that they would give their executives bonuses up to 10 million bucks. Because the deal with the feds really capped all executive compensation, everything, at $1 million a year. So what do? While they're bargaining with the federal government, they do a deal to take care of themselves so that they would make sure that they got in before any of the federal government's guidelines took precedence. Makes me puke. Galen Rovanescu, the former CEO of Air Canada, it wasn't uncommon for him to make 23, 25 million bucks a year. And on his way out, he had to grab another 800,000. It just makes me sick. And I always say, and I said it about Air Canada, the thinnest book in the world is the book of corporate ethics. Thinnest book in the world. So anyway, so they got their hands. Well, I had a little bit of fun with the media with them. So Air Canada isn't going to be sending me a Christmas card again this year, like I really care. But then I think about our members in the aerospace industry, where there's no question in the last federal government, a lot of money was put forward to deal with the aerospace industry. But I think about our members right through. And I take a look at the last federal budget. Our fingerprints were all over it. You know, if you take a look at what they did, they in essence announced about a little over $100 billion in investments in the economy. 30 billion of it is for childcare. So listen, I had a conversation with Trudeau, because a lot of the childcare announcement, of course, it's tied into the deal with the individual provinces. So I said to Trudeau, don't mess around. Don't waste your time in Alberta. Don't waste your time in Ontario. Don't waste your time in Saskatchewan. Don't waste your time in Manitoba. Carve the deal in the Atlantic provinces. Carve a deal with provinces where you have a relationship and they will do it. And I know in Nova Scotia, they've already put up their hands and say, look, we'll do it. So I said to Trudeau, the best way to get through and to make sure that we put into place the child care program, which by 2025, they're going to invest about $9.2 billion a year, is you got to start pitting provinces against provinces. You got to negotiate it one first, and then the second, and then the third, and then the citizens in the other provinces, hey, what the hell is wrong with us? So that's how you do it. And so I'm pushing them, and I'm pushing them, and I'm pushing them. So look, I realize I don't have you know me, I can go for a long time. And I think about the bargaining we've got going on. In the bargaining we're about to start, and the challenges with the offshore rigs, and the $175 million we had the government throw in. And what the Suncor CEO was saying, it doesn't look like we're going to get there. So we're following closely what's happening in the offshore rigs, because we know we've got probably about 200 members in bargaining right now, but in fact, the impact's about 1,000 members. And so it's all hands on deck. And when the Suncor CEO says it doesn't look very good, well, guess what? Good luck to him. We're not letting these jobs go away by any way, shape, or form. And then, of course, we're in bargaining a little later with Bell Alliance. We've already, I think, basically we're putting our proposals together, but I'm in bargaining right now with Bell Craft. I just spoke to their number 2 person just before I got on this call. And when I get off this, I'm calling them back, because Bell Canada are tough. They are one tough company to deal with, but that's okay. We're tougher. So so I'm just letting all of our members know with Bell Alliance, look, you guys you're all on our radar screen. All our sisters, brothers, all of our members are on our radar screen, and we'll be there in bargaining. So we'll just take a look. We've got healthcare bargaining coming up in Nova Scotia. And we know the problems and the challenges we've had with Stevie McNeil. I'm glad he's gone. But I mean, the new premier doesn't seem much better. But the bottom line is we got major healthcare bargaining going on. So we are all hands on deck. Of course, we've got FFAW. We've got the challenges that each and every day I can walk through the different bargaining. But we'll do it, and we'll get through it together. There's incredible challenges, but that's okay. So here's what we're talking about internally, because we're seeing that we've got a lot of employers that are trying to take advantage of COVID. And they're saying, hey, look, times are tough. So you're going to have to roll back your wages. You're going to have to cut your benefits. We want more flexibility. Guess what? No chance. We're not going to allow anybody to use this as an opportunity to claw back our hard-fought gains. So we're spending a lot of time talking to the staff. We've got a working group talking about how we deal with these situations. When the staff of the union is dealing with an employer that is trying to take advantage of the economic climate today, then they have to get a hold of their assistant. And then the assistants speak to me, and we figure out what our fight back and our response is, because it's just not going to happen. You know, I want to think about, and I want to talk about the work that we've done, but the work that we still need to do. Because my guess is one of the issues during the upcoming federal election, whatever the heck that's going to be, is what type of a government do we want? Have the federal Liberals been perfect? God, no. I've had some beautiful debates with all of them, including, like I said, the Prime Minister that called me last week. Philomena Tassi, the Labor Minister, called me for, how you doing, Jerry? And I said, I'm pissed at you over the legislation to order the workers back at the Port of Montreal. I said, you can't talk about a relationship with the labor movement and then pass legislation. So I said, just so you and I are crystal clear, and I said it publicly. I said, if it was my union, we had defied the legislation. She says, I know, I heard you saying it publicly on radio programs, and I saw it, and I heard you say it publicly on television. I said, just so you and I are clear, just try it. Try it. And so I was obviously setting the stage for anything she may have in her mind in the federal jurisdiction, but they know. And you all need to know, not a chance, not happening to us. I told her, just in case you forgot, I'm not exactly opposed to going to jail, to fighting for what I believe is right. Right? And it is what it is. I would never expect anybody to do anything I'm not prepared to do myself. And that's just the way it is. And that's not going to change. And that's our union. And that's all of you. So we got a hell of a lot of work ahead of us. I'm listening to Aaron O'Toole. And I laugh because when Aaron O'Toole kicked off the federal election, or excuse me, when Aaron O'Toole kicked off his leadership bid to lead the Conservative Party, he said he was going to be Jerry Dias's worst nightmare. So when the media raised it with me, I said, Aaron O'Fool, I said, he doesn't even hit my top 1,000. So anyway, so the name Aaron O'Fool is kind of stuck with him, and we're having a little bit of fun with him. But the bottom line is, I hope some of you have seen the advertising we're doing under Protect Canada, where we're kicking the hell out of Aaron O'Toole. By the way, in case you didn't figure it out, you are protecting Canada. That's you. That's us. That's our National Executive Board. That's us funding the program. That's us working with some other progressives within the labor movement. But I'll tell you, since we launched Protecting Canada, which is the Engage Canada, which we used to have in the past, he hasn't picked up anything, getting no steam, trying to court working class people. Good luck. So as usual, we're in the next federal election. We are absolutely in, because I don't want to go back to the Stephen Harper days. I don't want to go back to the days where we can't even pick up a phone and talk to people. So we got a lot of work to do. There's going to be a lot of boots on the ground, but the bottom line, if not us, who? I want to end with talking about, thank Christ, Donald Trump is gone. And I hear about a lot of the challenges that Joe Biden is presenting because of Buy America. I'll tell you, we've always dealt with Buy America. Always. Nothing's ever changed. And will he fight to wrestle back, some of the ground that the Democrats lost on protecting U.S. workers' jobs? Yeah. Are we going to have a fight on some of that? Yes. But when was the last time you saw a U.S. president, or I'll argue a Canadian prime minister, stand up for Amazon workers in Alabama that want to organize? When was the last time we saw somebody of Biden's profile saying the way to a stronger economy is through more unions and a stronger labor movement? When was the last time you had a U.S. president talking about eliminating right to work? So I will argue this is an opportunity for us, and I'm saying that to Trudeau. Say, look, we got a friend south of the border here that's talking about working class issues, and you better get on board. So I talked to him about anti-scab legislation. I talked to him about a whole host of things. I spoke to Tassie about a whole host of things. I talked about making it easier to organize workers, just like Biden is. So we've got some incredible opportunities here. I said to Trudeau, why don't you talk about Buy Canadian? We need an economic strategy in this country on Buy Back Better that talks about using the $100 billion worth a year of Canadian government money to put Canadians to work. It's not an outrageous concept, makes sense, and I agree. So look, I want to end my comments by thanking all of you. This has been one hell of a year and a bit. It's been a hell of a 14, 15 months. And we still got a long ways to go. But you know what? One thing everybody learned is who really is important around here, who the COVID heroes are around here. It's our members in long-term care facilities that make minimum wage. It's our members that work in hospitals, retirement communities. It's our members that take care of our seniors, and it's our members that take care of people who are permanently disabled. It's a real debate on why should workers in long-term care facilities get paid like crap and have to work in 2-3 different locations to make ends meet. It's about a debate of members and workers in grocery stores that are precarious, part-time, non-standards. It's about our members in the airline industry. It's about our members in transit. It's about I can walk right through them. School bus drivers, our members that are essential workers. And we're going to fight like hell to make sure that they're treated like essential workers and paid like essential workers. So the fight with Dominion was a good start. There's going to be a lot more of them. Anyway, I miss you all. And I thank you all. And I thank you, Linda, for the incredible work you're doing. Lana, my guest, is on this call somewhere. The staff of the union, but once again, we can't do anything without you, the leadership of our unions, of our locals. So thank you all very much, and I'll see you soon.